Bismillah Rahman Rahim, dear viewers, Assalamu Alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, India is witnessing internal political turmoil, a major rift within Bharatiya Janata Party, and a growing pressure, particularly after the worst defeat in May 2025 and subsequently the failure of a so-called Operation Sindoor. The sudden resignation of the Vice President, Jagdeep Dhankar, and increased military exercises, Indian posturing, and sending additional 20 battalions of Central Police Reserve Force into the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir might be a point to a possible diversion strategy. With elections ahead, there are reports, ample reports, that the Modi government may stage another false flag operation or any kind of a misadventure to shift focus from internal crisis. At the same time, India is provoking China over Tibet and Arunachal Pradesh, conducting missile tests directed towards its northern border, and also rapidly stockpiling weapons. The question arises, is India actually fueling another dangerous move to revive its fading narratives? To talk on this very important area of concern, particularly related to the Pakistan's security, we have in our studios Ms. Saira Rehman. She is the managing editor at the Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. Thank you very much. And with her, Brigadier Retired Hamid Malik. He is the Strategic Affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence in the studios. And online joining us, Dr. Waseem Ishaque. He is the International Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Waseem, for your presence online. My first question to you, Brigadier sir. Pakistan has firmly maintained its military deterrence against any direct aggression by inimical forces, including India. Now, India intended to regain that deterrence due to the recent limited conflict, but Pakistan's lethal response actually led India to a position where Delhi is facing internal criticism from inside, along with that internationally, but it's trying hard to recover from its May defeat. Appears restlessness, total frustration, and in that circumstance, do you think that this could lead to any other misadventure in future? Your comments.
Thank you very much, Faisal, for inviting me on such an important core issue, which is related to Pakistan's security and sovereignty. Because we must realize that we have been subjected to a neighbor which is very mean, clever, cunning, and wicked. And we can always expect any sinister move by our adversary. And we have seen in the past also, we have fought 4 wars for our defending our motherland with India. And what we have seen, that whenever our adversary got a chance to strike on us, it makes that move, and which may be called a stupid move, but that has been made by our adversary. Now, coming to your question, that the range of options which rests with our adversary, they are in kinetic and non-kinetic domains. And we come to that aspect, that in kinetic what we have seen, that it can be any misadventure which we have already been subjected to in the past twice and thrice, we can say. And then it can be shelling or rocket attacks against our line of control or international boundary. And what we have seen in the past short war, that a standoff kind of warfare has been manifested both by India and Pakistan. And in that case, drone attacks in any of localities in Pakistan against mosque or madrasa, to again claim a false flag operation against Pakistan. What we see, that India has been using it. And I want to remind you and the world that BJP is a derivative of RSS. And its president head Modi, which is a blunt, thirsty person by nature, and its cunning move can be that it can again stage any misadventure in the garb of an action or surgical strike against the terrorists.
But right now there is a rift between the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh as well. So to discuss that, your point well taken, Ruri sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Saira, reports suggest, there are lots of reports and even the Indian media discussing it, that there is a swear rift inside Bharatiya Janata Party now. The gang of five led by Modi pursuing their agendas right now. Opposition become fierce. US President Trump given 24 statements in 70 days that he brokered ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and just twice made a statement that 5 jets were actually shot down. This actually sparked the political unrest within India. Indian Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar just resigned on opposition demand. There is going to be a briefing on so-called Operation Sindoor that was planned in Lok Sabha on July 28th, 2025. Whether India heading towards turmoil, and in such a situation, would Modi dare to plan any sort of misadventure against Pakistan?
I think first of all there is a need to understand the the current political things going on right now in India, and I think now the opposition in India has been emerged as a more energized and joint and coordinated form. And this misadventure of May in the aftermath of Pahalgam, which Modi government tried to impose their negativity, their hostility towards its neighbor without giving any evidence, has become counterproductive for BJP itself. And I think it shows the institutional and constitutional crisis within BJP and within the current regime of India. And I think there is a need to understand that BJP's politics are anti-people politics. They are not in development-oriented politics. They are following the BJP and the current regime headed by Modi is, they always adopt a winning strategy of, Hindutva, hostility to Pakistan. And their adamant stance on not negotiating on Kashmir's issue is a direct threat to the normalization between its neighbors, particularly with Pakistan and China. So I think all these things indicate that current right now BJP is under turmoil, and it's very and I think now the opposition and the media, the same voices I would say within the media, are demanding and want to expose the missteps and the misadventure which they adopted and which they tried to gain some political capital out of it, and they want to expose it. And I think it's a very very fragile situation for BJP right now and for the current regime in India.
Your point well taken. Dr. Waseem, according to Indian media, Prime Minister Modi recently met President Draupadi Murmu late at night, also held a meeting with the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir puppet Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha for 45 minutes, followed by a sudden appointment of occupied Ladakh, a new puppet Lieutenant Governor Kavindra Gupta, as he is basically a Bharatiya Janata Party leader, former IIOJK Deputy Chief Minister and Jammu Mayor as well. What's the purpose behind this sudden appointment in Ladakh, then having 45 minutes of the meeting with the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor, the so-called the puppet one?
I think the biggest problem and biggest fallout of Operation Sindoor is that Indian political and military leadership is in a great dilemma. The civil-military rift is absolutely visible now, and the mantra of liberal democracy has also been exposed very badly. So having this overall strategic setting in mind, I think Prime Minister Modi is feeling absolutely insecure and vulnerable, especially in the entire northern region. This is Kashmir and the other northern region. I have been following the statements of Farooq Abdullah and Umar Abdullah. They have I think very astonishingly, demonstrated very conciliatory approach towards Pakistan. And I've been following them, whatever the choice of words they have been making was very advising the Indian government to have a very constructive engagement with Pakistan, and said that unless you engage with Pakistan, you won't be able to find a way out for your stability inside Kashmir and stability in the rest of the India. Now, this is as a backdrop of Indian failure in Operation Sindoor. So having seen, and they tried their level best to manipulate the elections in Kashmir, but couldn't get the government of their own choice. So therefore, and having suffered several losses in terms of the ground forces in Kashmir, I think Prime Minister Modi is feeling absolutely insecure and feels that it is a very soft belly. So therefore, to keep the mantra of two-front war alive, and as we have seen that Indian think tanks and Indian politicians and Indian media has always been saying that it was not Pakistan alone, it was Pakistan and China together. So therefore, on ground also, they want to create a situation whereby they want to portray that China and Pakistan both actually from their perspective is providing a lot of threat to India. So therefore, having insecurity on a political front and having seen the civil military rift and having seen the intra-party also a lot of conflicts going on, the Prime Minister Modi has probably decided to have only those people whom he can trust the most should be appointed in the entire northern region. He can't do anything about Farooq Abdullah and Umar Abdullah, but for all other appointments, he has gone about the way you have just highlighted. So from my perspective, this is the vulnerability, and Prime Minister Modi is feeling very insecure. And I'm sure the forthcoming elections would also give this reality check on Prime Minister Modi's declining popularity, a declining graph of popularity. While on the other hand, opposition has become overactive. They have been demanding the inquiry and investigations. And we have seen that India has been suffering a lot of setbacks on the diplomatic front also. And the recent statement by President Trump is also the testimony of that. So in the overall context, it is a great challenge for the political survival of Prime Minister Modi. And there is no face saving for the Indian senior military leadership. So I think for the times to come, India would be grappling with those internal environments as well as the external environments.
Definitely,
However,
definitely. Dr. Waseem, you are absolutely right.
It's a very fragile situation whereby Prime Minister Modi can still resort to another false flag operation.
You are absolutely right, because right now the first and the foremost challenge Modi regime has is the upcoming Bihar election, in which they are tempering the election commission, they are changing the voter list, they are sidelining the minorities out of that list as well, and they are restricting opposition to don't have the real-time political campaigns within Bihar as well. So, Dr. Waseem, despite of humiliating defeat at the hands of Pakistan, India trying to have aggressive posturing towards not only towards Pakistan but also towards China, without realizing the consequences of these acts, as just recently on 16th and 17th of July 2025, within 24 hours, India tested its 3 missiles, Agni 1, Prithvi 2 in Odisha, and then those were directed towards northern India. Another surface-to-air missile, that is Akash Prime, is in occupied Ladakh region. What India actually intends to do, what they are posturing for?
Let me answer this question on 2-3 bullets. One on the political front and the other one on the military front, and third would be the strategic messaging to the international community. On the political front, we have seen how the opposition party has been quite active and demanding for the accountability of Modi regime. So there's a great dilemma over there. On the upcoming elections, again, the popularity graph has gone down so much. So therefore, they want to gain some sort of political mileage, and if not in substantive terms, at least distract their population for antagonistic, I would rather say that antagonistic posturing towards Pakistan that might unite the India, as it has been happening in the past in all the elections. On the military front, so they suffered a defeat in air campaign, in missile campaign, in drone campaign, as well as in the ground forces. So therefore, there is no face saving for them. So just sort of face saving, they want to create these missile testings to communicate strategic messaging to their public first that they are still alive, and to Pakistan and China that they would fight back at the time of their own choosing. So these are just the basically to silence their own local audience, and it has beyond that, it has I don't think so it has any implications for the international audience. As we have seen the North Korean regime, whenever they wanted to draw international attentions, they will always be going for missile testing. So probably Prime Minister Modi and their military leadership, using the same analogy, wants to just attract the international attention, having more focus and the kind of diplomatic leverage which they have lost previously. They just want to regain that and just want to have a sort of engagement with the international players, especially the United States and the European partners. Nothing beyond that. Probably it can't give them anything beyond that. Thank you.
Your point well taken. Brigadier Retired Hamid Sahab, India massively increasing its defense production and stockpile advanced weapons under the banner of self-reliance, then intend to procure $100 billion of arms and ammunition at the urgent basis. Could this growing pile of destructive weapons actually push the region into another unending arms race, even the missile race, closer to instability and conflict rather than ensuring peace, stability and development in the region?
Surely, this is one of the natural outcomes of the arms race, that when one adversary acquires certain amount of weapons and ammunition, the other has to go for the parity. But what we see in the context of Indo-Pak conflict, that we have gone for the quality, not for the quantity. But to our good luck, that India always goes for the quantity, not for the quality. And in the recent the war, we can say short war, whatever it conflict, but what we have seen, that India was beaten in technology, in expertise, in training, in the best skillful use of the weapons and equipment. They had the best aircraft, but our Air Force showed that it is not the weapon, but the man behind the weapon. As it's normally said, it is not the gun, but man behind the gun.
It is how you are employing the technology actually.
Not technology, but how you are actually manifesting
Definitely.
the qualities,
There are lots of
the
factors in
characteristics.
that. Your training, your leadership, your thinking,
Yes.
your planning, how to execute things.
First of
how
all
to
is the
employ.
mindset.
Yes,
First of all is the mindset. And as you already highlighted, the credible deterrence what we claim and we ensured again. And again here in this arm race, yes, naturally the outcome would be that Pakistan will face a pressure on its defense budget because it has to acquire technology, and technology is, you can say, an
It's
aspect
expensive.
in which you have,
Our
it
budget
is
is not
expensive
meeting that,
also,
really.
but
Don't-
you have to remain abreast
Definitely.
or at least one step ahead of that. And if you have to remain one step ahead of that, apart from the training, you have to acquire the latest weapon and equipment which are available in the world.
Very right.
And what we have seen, that okay, China has always provided Pakistan the best ever support available to our army and armed forces is concerned, but at the same time, what our armed forces has manifested is that they have gone for the best training, motivation and the skillful use of the available weapon and equipment.
Whatever
and here
availability,
the arm
yes.
race naturally will fuel that, but at the time I would like to point out to the world that they need to keep an eye on that, because Southeast Asia is a region where two nuclear powers are head on to each other.
South Asia.
That
South Asia.
what we say, that we are a responsible nuclear state, and we have never threatened India, but we have always tried to safeguard our protection, safeguard our motherland. But on the other hand, India has nefarious design. So this arm race has to be seen in that context also. And what we have seen, that recently the world community has realized that. We have seen Trump not meeting Modi, but inviting Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal Syed Munir. And what we see, that in the shape of a leader, what we have, Field Marshal Syed Munir, Pakistan will be able to safeguard its motherland against any nefarious design, and as well as the arm race is concerned, there will be a very credible, appropriate and I think justified response.
Very well said, very well said. Saira, Indian Defense and the Home Ministers, along with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, held closed-door meetings, sending 20 additional Central Reserve Police Force battalions to Kashmir, particularly in the context of the staged April 22, 2025 Pahalgam incident and the controversial so-called Operation Sindoor. What does this signal about India's covert designs to trigger genocide inside illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir?
I see that deploying 20 battalions is not a routine matter, and this strongly shows some points. I think that deploying such heavy military in already a militarized area shows
a paramilitary force over there.
That there is a strong anticipation of public unrest by the government or mass resistance in the region. That's why they are trying to pre-secure the area in case there is any planned operations that may trigger backlash from the public. So the government must have had this thing in mind, that they should pre-secure the area, they should have extra forces there. And an effort to enforce demographic control, I would say. Then comes another thing is that suppress dissent or manipulate local elections or population data as per the government's needs. That's why they want to pre-secure, they want to have some extra cover cushion of army personnel over there. So, and I think that definitely, and there is no doubt about it, that in already a heavily militarized area, sending so much battalions and sending so much army personnel shows there is some military political agenda behind it. It's not a routine policing.
You're
so we should keep that.
Very brief, if you tell us, with heightened security deployments in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and even in Ladakh, ongoing mock drills around Delhi and different other cities, growing concerns actually raised by the sane voices within India, even Indian opposition parties. In Modi government is Modi government actually preparing the ground for another false flag operation or possibly any sort of a misadventure against Pakistan? Possibly timed with August 5th, because that was the day in 2019 when they have revoked Article 370 and 35A, and then the August 15, the so-called Independence Day, what Kashmiris and Pakistani called it a black day. Could this be an attempt to divert attentions from the internal dissent and the failures, or to justify another misadventure in the region?
I think these concerns are very genuine, and they should be taken reliable also, and we need to prepare for that also, not only militarily but diplomatically also. And what we have seen that previously our diplomatic maneuver has not been that proactive to actually expose India that what are their sinister and nefarious designs in the region. And what we see Indian hegemony in the region, it is not only Pakistan. Bangladesh is also subject to such miseries by the India, and even Bhutan and Nepal, which are very small countries, but against China also. What we have seen that India always project China a threat to India, but it is otherwise, that India is threat to the region. India is threat to China also and to Pakistan also.
Yes.
And as you highlighted, that under the terminology of false flag operations, but I say it is not false flag operation, it is anti-human operation against their own population. They always kill their own population and they try to blame others. Now, the world also has to take this note of it.
Definitely.
They have to take a note of it, and India has not been killing people in India, they have been killing people in Canada, killing people in USA, killing people in England, in other countries. And that is why Five Eyes expose India and their terror network in the globe also. And here also that what you highlighted, that if certain incident takes place on 5 August, on 15 August, first of all the international community must ask India what are the facts, what evidence they have collected. And as you know, the recent 2 false flag operations which India conducted,
they haven't provided any sort of solid
anything.
evidences to the world, really.
That is the point. And second point is that the internal audience, now they are also putting questions to the Indian government. What you have done. People call it Operation Sindoor. If you ask me, I will call it Operation Vidwa. because they have damaged Indian credibility, government credibility, and also the law and order situation in India also. Anantnag is quite far off from the border, and if somebody can sneak is to that place and carry out operation, and then what are the evidence available to them?
A very interesting term you coined, Operation Vidwa, because after the Operation Sindoor, now everybody, even in the Indian armed forces, they are thinking about that was the Operation Vidwa, really. Yes. So, Saira, after Pulwama, Modi sacrificed, as Brig Sahab rightly pointed out, that they kill their own people and blame others. Modi sacrificed Central Reserve Police Force, at least 40 or more than 40 soldiers, and revoked Article 370 and 35A. After Pahalgam, he sacrificed his own citizens, civilians, and suspended the Indus Water Treaty. Now, with rising security activity, lots of exercises, the political signaling, the mock exercises, is the Bharatiya Janata Party preparing something to justify further by splitting Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir further into the separate regions like might be Kashmir and Jammu, to complicate the issue more and more and to assert its hegemonic and nefarious designs, and also the terrorism within the state-sponsored terrorism within illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. What could be the motives and consequences of such a move if that would be done with Kashmir?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, that Modi's or the BJP's politics is not people driven. First of all, we need to understand this. This is not people, this is anti-people politics. They do not, they focused on not on development, not on bringing harmony and stability within the society, within the people. They believe in, you know, divide and rule type thing. And I think first of all we need to internalize this thing, that their politics is anti-people politics. They do not believe in, you know, the human development or the harmony or peace. One thing. Number two, I think such sort of operations, this pattern particularly mirrors the historical pattern of BJP to justify for the to make any space for large scale operations in the veil of, you know, national security. And I think that's the point where the opposition and the sane voices, I will again, because media really, Indian media have greatly has disappointed the world and disappointed us as well during the coverage of this whole incident of post-Pahalgam conflict.
Why you were disappointed actually, because it's the traditional Indian media. But their motto is not to say
I was
truth.
not expecting that kind of, you know, drama.
Even the Indian public was not expecting. So,
what was
right,
going on.
Right. Because I was waiting for, and I was really unlucky when I was watching Indian media, I was unlucky because for 6 to 7 years I lived there in Lahore, but I have never witnessed any sort of a harbour there. When I've watched Indian media, there was a loud and clear depiction that one of the Lahore port was hit by the Indian military.
Yeah.
So, to highlight the difference between PTV or Pakistani media and India is, one is journalism based on facts, which is called news, and other is the Hollywood or Bollywood movies. They were just acting as a Bollywood movie, which is all based on fiction, having no reality. And why my colleague was disappointed? Because as a sane person, as an intellectual, you need to know the facts. And media is one to present the facts to the people, not to their own internal audience only, to the globe also.
Definitely. I would like to add one point. Even to depict a fiction, there is a, you know, way and the expression and the, you know, you just weave some story, you make some story, you present it, the choice of words.
Fiction
and the
is
music,
basically a serious form of literature. So we have to take it seriously rather than fiction is not just
that was something, you know, beyond words.
Definitely, it was unfortunate. Thank you, Saira. Dr. Waseem, by selectively invoking the Dalai Lama's right to choose his successor, is India using sensitive Tibet issue as a geopolitical tool to provoke China while conveniently hiding behind the veil of religious freedom? Isn't this a hypocritical stance from a regime that often suppresses the minorities at home, yet now claims moral authority on Tibetan succession, while Beijing just want a Buddhist religious Dalai Lama, not the US backed and the India sponsored political one, and declared that nominating next Dalai Lama from India would be really detrimental for Delhi. How do you see this whole gambit? India's posturing towards China's cautious statement that India must have to be at its bay.
Faisal, the answer to your first part of the question, that it is being used as a geopolitical tool, yes. India has always used this Dalai Lama since last about 70, 80 years by now as a leverage against China. While from Chinese perspective, this Dalai Lama is a very, very sensitive issue, and it is actually interference in the internal affairs of China. So what India, why chose this particular time to actually ignite this Dalai Lama issue once again? Because India has actually been suffering very badly on all fronts. So therefore, would now keep certain things alive so that its mantra of two-front war, its mantra of facing difficulty from China and Pakistan should remain alive, so that it accrues political mileage for the domestic audience. So this is one aspect. Secondly, from the Chinese perspective, let me quote Professor Victor Goa, who is actually the director of China Center for Globalization, and he has been the English interpreter of Deng Xiaoping. He has very clearly stated to the Indian media at several occasions that let there be absolutely no doubt of China's commitments to the defense of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Pakistan. So what India is actually trying to do is trying to create a wedge between Pakistan and China on one hand, then trying to convey to the world that it is China who was behind Pakistan for all this technological innovation and everything. So therefore, India feels isolated now at this point in time. So therefore, they would like to accrue maximum benefits on military terms and political terms from the United States, from the EU, and from other Western partners. So having seen this scenario, probably as we know that this Tibet and Dalai Lama is a very sensitive issue for China, so therefore taking up this issue at this point in time has no other meaning but just a geopolitical tool, trying to draw some leverages and some concessions from China, while China is absolutely firm with zero tolerance on Tibet and on all its territorial borders and sovereignty, etc., and all those disputed borders.
So Dr. Waseem, first of all, sorry for that, because I'm going in too much explanation, but it's a historical context. So in 1914, the representatives of Tibet, China, and the British Indian subcontinent met in Shimla. Sir Henry McMahon drew a line, made inner and outer Tibet with 90,000 kilometer difference. Tibetan representatives signed the documents, but not the Chinese. Afterwards, declared as Northeast Frontier Agency, that was NEFA. Later became the part of Assam. Then in 1972, Arunachal Pradesh as a union territory by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Started Operation Falcon, built military infrastructure over there. Then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in 1987. In 1993, turned McMahon Line into the line of actual control. But in 2009, Arunachal Pradesh renamed by Chinese as South Tibet, made Western Theatre Command, 92 names given to the Arunachal Pradesh region. Now they went back and wanted that this Arunachal Pradesh, in real terms, that is, according to Chinese, that is South Tibet, they want it back at any cost. What would be the consequences ultimately if India provoked such Dalai Lama issues and all that? I'm talking about the 15th Dalai Lama as a successor of the 14th one.
Let's see the historical context. Ever since Sino-Indian War of 1962, this entire region is militarized. And ever since that point in time, the China of today is far different and far more powerful with a huge international influence than China of 1962.
Exactly.
So this is the fact. Secondly, see the Chinese grand strategy in overall peaceful coexistence within this region and beyond is that China has a border with 14 countries and it has already settled with 12 countries peacefully and through dialogue. Only 2 countries are left, which is India and Bhutan. Barring the other 2 claims of 12 dash lines and 9 dash lines, which is more in the maritime domain. For the Indian perspective, India wants to have a claim on the entire Tibetan area, what you just highlighted. However, from the Chinese perspective, the area of Tibet belongs to China, and China has so far demonstrated zero concession and zero tolerance on its claimed territorial integrity and sovereignty. And exactly that's why the issue of 9 dash lines is still alive with all the East Asian countries. So from that historical background, China is not going to be involved into any sort of concession. However, seeing the China's pragmatism in how they have settled their border issues with 12 countries, I'm sure they would be able to find out some way out through dialogue, not through any coercive movement by India, and through diplomacy and pragmatism, they might be able to come up to some sort of mutual agreement and mutual adjustment, but not the way the India wants and not on the Indian terms. It will be mutual terms and mostly dictated by China, because today's China is far more powerful and China is not impatient about time. China can wait for another 50 years, but they will not be doing this adjustment of border issues with India in haste. So therefore, I suggest that India may probably be making any sort of claims, but India will not be able to gain any sort of success or draw any concessions from China for the time being.
You are absolutely right, absolutely right. Your point well taken. But really retired Hamid sir, as the US views China as India's primary strategic rival, India intends to destabilize the region with its nefarious and hegemonic designs against Pakistan and countering China through military and the political moves. In response, China is reinforcing its defenses in Tibet, expanding road networks in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh in nearest areas, and building dams on the Brahmaputra as well. Is this sharpening the India-China rivalry, and what could it mean for the regional stability?
I think the answer lies what Professor Waseem has already said, that China is not going for any hegemonic designs or going for any war or sharpening of conflict with India. What they are doing, they are going for the progress of that area. The people who are living in that area, they are bringing that at par with their developed cities like Beijing or Shanghai. So this is a bona fide and legitimate right of any government to provide the infrastructure in far-flung areas also, and it has to be seen through that prism also. And as you said, that construction of roads or other infrastructure in that area is not to have any hegemonic design for the adversary, rather it is to provide basic civic necessities to that areas. And as far as the issue of dam is concerned, every upper riparian have certain legitimate rights to use water of that river, and there is no treaty between India and China which supposed to stop or which supposed to put certain bars on China not to develop that dam. But on the contrary, what we see that India being upper riparian has a justified inter-basin water treaty with Pakistan, but see the conduct, the stupid or irresponsible conduct of India.
India time and again violates that, really.
Always violates that.
Always violates.
And it has been actually using it as not a political leverage, but now as a war mongering leverage against Pakistan. Now, water is basically for the survival of the complete communities which live close to the banks of that river. And from that aspect, China, what we have seen that in the past also, instead of going to the wars, they have gone and used diplomacy and negotiation table to resolve the issues with its neighbor. And again, what I think, as already highlighted, that China will wait and would like to resolve issues with India also. But on the contrary, what India is doing, they always trump out China as their adversary, as a threat to India, and they gain lot from the America and from the Europe. And as you already highlighted in the question, they become darling because a counterweight to China in the Southeast Asia. But on the contrary, what we see that China has always extended a cooperation, a helping hand to its neighbors. Their vision of one belt, one road.
So that they are the darling of West, but unfortunately they are not. They are just ally in a sense that they are the part of 2+2 and the Quad and all others.
One aspect I would like to highlight, Faisal, here,
please.
That China vision of one belt, one road is basically asking neighbors to come for a mutual progress and development, so that the civic communities of both the countries, they flourish, they get basic necessities. So, from that perspective, the world has to see that certain action of China to be translated
Actually,
positively.
China believes in mutual growth and development.
That's the
not
point.
only in the region, but beyond as well.
That's the point.
So that's why China is pursuing the path of peace rather than to be the conflict, because this is the main difference between the West and the China, really.
Sure.
So, Saira, Modi regime has historically planned misadventures, lots of false flag operations like Uri, Rajouri, Pathankot, Pulwama, Pahalgam, and list is very long. To consolidate domestic narratives, given the current internal volatility right now, is there any real possibility that India may engineer or escalate a tactical conflict? I am talking about tactical conflict with Pakistan or China to serve domestic or electoral objectives in Bihar and elsewhere, because lots of elections are already planned in 2026, 27 as well, particularly under the cover of nationalism and external threat projection.
Yes, I think the chances are growing, because if you see historically, the approach of weaponizing crisis for political gain is has been the pattern, particularly of BJP. So, I think there is a recurring chances that Modi may try to go for any second round of misadventure. But I think now the opposition in India has been sensitized after this failed attempt post Pahalgam conflict with India, with Pakistan, and the hard signaling, so-called hard signaling in the form of suspension of claiming of suspension of India Water Treaty.
Indus Water Treaty.
Sorry, Indus Water Treaty. So I think yes, chances are there, but it would be an horrendous affair if God forbid it may go to happen, because ultimately loss would not be concised only to Pakistan and India. In case God forbid if Modi again will go for any misadventure, then the escalation ladder may go out of control and the conflict may go beyond region. China may get involved into it.
That would be a complete disaster.
That would be a
complete disaster. Modi don't think so, but don't think about the consequences really. So this is.
But I think the real picture will come after the Parliament briefing, which is going to be held on after on July 28th,
yes.
And I think we should expect some policy statements after that.
And also witness how much lies actually Modi regime will place at the table before the opposition.
Because
so there would be lots of questions by the opposition
there.
as well. So let's see what happened. But thank you very much, Saira, for being here in the studios. Thank you very much, Brigadier Hamid sir, for your presence. And I'm really grateful to you, Dr. Waseem, for your candid views as well. Thank you very much for your presence online. Viewers, as you have just listened, that as Brigadier retired Hamid rightly said, Operation Vidwa. This is kind of a synonym with Operation Sindoor. But as happened, and then civil military leadership in India, that they are complete in the dilemma of a worse defeat really. And that's why the opposition is asking time and again, asking lots of questions. And those triggered a lot when the US President Donald Trump next day once again says that he was the one who actually brokered that ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and also when he has made a couple of times the statements that 5 aircrafts were down. So this is a credibility of Pakistan's military, Pakistan's posturing, and Pakistan's defense, and Pakistan's overall resolve towards the world. now the situation is that India initiated an arms race in South Asia. Pakistan don't have to follow it, but this is going to be a dangerous precedent. When Indian government sent at least 20 battalions or 20,000 paramilitary forces or the Central Reserve Police Force soldiers and officers to the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, it means that India wants to some sort of trigger the genocide, the war crimes and the ethnic cleansing which is already going on. So this is going to be the dangerous thing as well. India is also provoking China on the Dalai Lama issue, and this is deliberate. And they are actually hiding behind the curtain of religious norms and all that. But in fact, the situation is vice versa. And this is already cleared by China, that the 15th Dalai Lama is the sole right of the Tibetan people and the Chinese government, and provoking the current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, is going to be a threatening thing towards China. India also using right now lots of military posturing like missile tests, like the military and air exercises, and also mobilizing its troops at the line of control and at the international border. Once again, India wants to provoke something, but we are very calm. We are just watching the situation, but we are already 24 hours ready, as our forces are at the red alert since April. So there must have to be no doubt about that. Pakistan will defend each and every inch of its territory at any cost. When we say at any cost, it means at any cost. So India must have to think about peace, development and prosperity in the region rather than provoking Pakistan on that things. But we don't have to sit idle. We have to have some sort of a progressive and aggressive diplomacy across the world about the India's intended designs, because lots of Indians saying the same voices that Modi might stage any sort of false flag operation or any kind of a misadventure. We are ready for that, but we have to actually loudly give information to the world that what Indian nefarious designs are and what India's thinking is. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.